ask permission from Paul. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So this morning I'll read some excerpts from a new Luang Por Baen book that I've started translating. This is the opening quote, one of the opening quotes in the book. It's the book is called Tang Hang Makpon, which I've roughly working translation, the way of path and fruit. Sila, samadhi, and panna is the path. It is the training and it is the way. Where does this path lead? This is the path to knowing and seeing the mind clearly. The mind seen clearly is clean. It possesses brightness, uprightness, and malleability. When the mind is well established in brightness, uprightness, and malleability, then the mind is said to have Dhamma, for it has been trained by sila, samadhi, and panna. When the time comes and the mind is well trained and well tempered by Dhamma, then the mind is said to be liberated. At that time, the mind becomes Dhamma, and final release appears. Our duty as ordained people is to keep this mind and heart of ours far away from the issues of the world. All the issues of the world are nothing more than the issues of sensuality and defilement. We ordained people must turn our backs on them. As those who turn our backs on this worldly trivia, we nurture our responsibility as ordained people in the correct and proper manner. Sama sankappo, the thought of getting out from sensuality, is right thought. This is the path, the way to enlightenment. This is the way of path and fruit. We say that gain is something of value. Wealth is something of value, and these things should be wished for above all else. But these things are of the defilements. They belong to defilement and are worldly pursuits. Once you succeed in acquiring gain, wealth, praise, and even more than that, or your assets multiply further to whatever high number, there is still no way these things can be a true refuge. So what is the refuge? It is just this: we are a refuge unto ourselves. We take refuge in ourselves. It is correct to take the Buddha as a refuge, the Dhamma as a refuge, the Sangha as a refuge, and the Kruba Ajahns as a refuge. But ultimately, we have to take ourselves as the refuge. We recite, Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. We say these words. We don't deny that Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha are refuges, or that the Kruba Ajahns are a refuge. We don't deny these things, but in the end, all of us will find the true refuge within ourselves. I've been speaking about this view for a very long time now, to make it very clear. This mind of ours is certainly our refuge. However highly we develop and train our mind, that mind will definitely be its own refuge. This is what is high and firmly established. That which we call gain, wealth, and accolades, even if you pile them up into a heap filling the whole earth, they are absolutely worthless. How to speak clearly about what really has value. Material things are just things that we acquire, and yes, we really can make use of them and rely on them. However, these things we dwell in and rely on can't be a refuge. When we fall ill, a pile of money the size of the earth or bigger than that won't help. Take a gravely ill person and have them lie down on that pile of money. Does it cure them? Think about Venerable Ratapala leaving the household life. His parents wouldn't allow him to go. For how could he just leave? Everyone knew this great millionaire family in the district, people of great wealth and influence. They said, "You are our only son. Who will look after all this wealth?" And thus they didn't give their permission. The father didn't give his permission, and the son didn't want to stay. In the end, the son was so firm in his resolve that he decided, if they won't let me ordain, then I won't ordain. I won't go, but I will fast, thus going without all food. Then he really did it. He neither ate nor bathed. On the first day, the father went and asked his servant how his son was. On the second day, he asked the servant again. On days 3, 4, and 5, he checked in with the servant. Then he started to get worried. He might actually die. Day 6, day 7. Wow, this can't be. He's going to die. How can I let my only son just die like this? He considered, all right, if he wants to ordain, then let him ordain. When he gets bored, he will surely return. So he sent the servant to inform his son. If you want to ordain, then you may ordain. Your father gives his permission. Even though the father spoke like that, he was confident that before long his son would certainly return. That would be far better than letting him just die. Just before all this, the clansman Ratapala had listened to the Lord Buddha giving a teaching. He had been in his castle looking out over the city when he noticed a group of people heading out somewhere. He went down and asked them, "Hey, where are you all going?" They said that they were on their way to hear the Lord Buddha give a teaching, and he wanted to join them. When the teaching was finished, everyone left, but Ratapala didn't want to leave. At that time, he got the opportunity to pay respects to the Lord Buddha and requested permission to ordain thus. This is good. The ordained life is a life which is supremely excellent. The household life is a realm of darkness, and finding a way out of that darkness is most difficult, for finding the way in the dark is hard. All that is accumulated here is more darkness. It is easy to increase the obscurations, but difficult to limit and make an end of them. But first I must take leave of my father and mother. When his father said he could ordain, Ratapala bathed and ate a good meal. Then he respectfully took leave of his father and mother and left to go pay his respects to the Lord Buddha. The clansman Ratapala went to the Buddha, who granted him permission to ordain. The Buddha ordained him by saying, "Ehi bhikkhu," for the Buddha didn't make ordaining into a difficult matter. When the permission was given, the ordination was finished. That's all. Venerable Ratapala ordained according to his wish, then proceeded to study the standards of practice and training. He threw himself completely into the practice, since he went forth for the sake of practice and for a realization of path, fruit, and nibbana. Eventually, he attained the fruit of arhatship. Time passed, and Venerable Ratapala decided to pay a visit to his parents. He went to them for alms, but didn't get any food. They saw him, but didn't recognize their son, so they weren't interested in giving. Once they eventually knew who it was, they invited him to receive the meal at their home the following morning. At that point, their son, the monk, had left home for a long time. The parents considered that perhaps he had forgotten about his fortune, so they made a pile of silver and a pile of gold. They gathered their wealth into a pile. The size of this pile isn't specified, but we know it was big enough for a person to sit on top of. Venerable Ratapala arrived, and he stood looking at the pile of wealth. He reflected with pity and sadness upon the situation. My dear father remains totally entrenched. He doesn't even think for a minute about the calamity and ruin brought about by this very wealth. Fathers kill their sons, and sons kill their fathers because of this. So Venerable Ratapala didn't want to sit on the seat made ready for him upon that pile of wealth. Instead, he said, the whole world is a confused mess. All beings are confused with a fever burning because of this thing we call money. It is all due to this material item we conventionally call money. Take it and throw it all into the sea. When he spoke like that, it wasn't just an act. Arhants speak from a pure heart only, for the impure heart no longer exists for them. Presently, whether Buddhist or non-Buddhist, it is better to class everyone as worldly beings who take their personal defilements as their master and live following their commands. In terms of gain, we don't discriminate between villagers and monastery goers, or whether it is striped, black, white, or yellow. It's never just ordinary gain. Wealth is the same. There's no end to it. Those venerable ones who see these things as a yoke, a trap, a prison, and a cage do still exist. Those who see these things as being no more than urine and excrement still exist, but the percentage isn't high. Even 1% out of 1 million people is difficult to find. In terms of worldly beings, even 1% of 100 million or even 1 billion is rare. For this percentage, we count the hearts of beings, not the exterior human forms. For all humans, for all these beings we're counting are just worldly beings. Ordination means ordination of the heart. Don't see anything at all as belonging to you. Most importantly, this thing which is born and dies, and we conventionally call our body. Get clear about this. Make this knowledge vividly clear. Clarify the truth of how the body is. Use all your knowledge and vision for a clear certainty to arise. There is no need to want to let go, to want to be empty, to want to relinquish, to want to renounce. There is no need to desire dispassion. Excrement. If you know clearly that it is excrement, then even if it's wrapped in gold, it's impossible that you'll find enjoyment in that lump of excrement. When something has nothing that can be considered a self or belonging to a self, even a little, to say it is a self or a person or ours can't be. Ordination of the heart. With our heart ordination, it's not necessary to hold that we will ordain for 1 year. It's not necessary to hold that we will ordain for 1 month. We are ordained every day. We ordain every single day. Each day we live for that day. Ordain your mind and ordain your heart every single day. Now I'll skip forward. This talk is called Practice Monks. We say practice monks. These words point to something wonderful beyond measure. May we all be real practice monks, directing our efforts towards staying with our theme of practice, the kammatthana. If us practice monks direct our attention somewhere else, due to not taking an interest in the proper themes, then we have removed our heart from the practice, and the result won't be correct. We won't be in line with people in the world calling us practice monks. The heart of a practice monk abides within the meditation theme. He buries himself deep in the kammatthana and really goes headfirst into it. Head hair is the meditation theme. Body hair is the meditation theme. Nails are the meditation theme. Teeth are the meditation theme. Skin is the meditation theme. The word tacha pancha kammatthana means the 5 meditation objects of head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, and skin, or all 32 body parts continuing on from these 5 are another level or aspect of this theme. Us practice monks ought to bury our mind and heart deep in our meditation theme. This matter of walking meditation and sitting meditation is a matter which is most important. This is the matter of contemplating our meditation themes of head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, and skin, seeing their unattractive nature. Train to see them as something unclean. Realize that they are earth, water, air, and fire. It is necessary to hurry and contemplate these things in order to realize their true nature. For those who have already gained some realization into these things, contemplate further to make it even more clear and apparent. Make it vivid and very clear. For those who haven't yet gained realization into these things, prod yourself to hurry and enter into them. If we haven't gained this realization, then the mind won't gain an opening to reach the heart ordination. It won't be able to enter into the state of a noble one or even a novitiate. One must see into these meditation themes. One must realize the true nature of the meditation theme beforehand. Then the mind will reach the state of being a noble one. If you don't yet know and see and haven't focused on your study of these meditation themes, then this knowledge and vision will continue to have no opportunity to arise. Then you are a monk only on account of your shaven head, and none of us want this to be the case. We want to shave our whole head. We want to shave our whole mind and heart as well. Shave the messmaker completely off of the mind and heart. Then that mind-heart sphere is noble. All of us want to be monks by way of not just our whole body, but our whole mind as well. So hurry and get down to it, and don't dally. And what is our Dhamma razor, which can shave the messmaker off of the mind and off of the heart? Hurry and urge yourselves to cultivate by seeing head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, and skin. If we don't hurry and try to force ourselves by way of the method of contemplating head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, and skin to realize their true nature, then these very things will make our mind and heart be a mess. All beings in the world, every mind and heart, no matter what order of being they are, all take just this head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, and skin as an attachment. They are the messmaker for the minds and hearts of worldly beings. As ordained people, we have ample opportunity to get rid of, to wipe the messmaker out of the mind and out of the heart. Eventually, this messmaker will be all gone. We now have a precious opportunity to make this happen. But even though we have this precious opportunity, if we lack the appropriate effort and don't strive to use this opportunity to get the benefit, then we miss the opportunity to remove the messmaker. The mind will remain firmly stuck in its mess, just like a head which hasn't been shaved. If you search for cleanliness and beauty there, you won't be able to find it. Get really interested in this so that you strive to bury the mind and heart inside of the kammatthana completely. In all four postures, don't let the heart get pulled away from the kammatthana. Don't lose the plot. Our defilements lay in waiting, and we'll take the first opportunity to make the mind and heart lose the plot. There are many things which will cause our mind and heart to get distracted. If our earnestness of mind and determination of heart to stay with the kammatthana aren't enough, then old defilements tug at the mind, causing it to be swayed. They can tug at the heart, causing it to drift away and follow a wayward path. Those who benefit from their study and practice do so because they put their whole heart into it. They put their heart into everything they do. They see the benefit and receive the benefit which arises from the practice and training. And I'll skip forward to read a brief excerpt from the next talk. A long time ago here, our Krupa Ajahns were having a discussion about how to translate this word, kammatthana. They decided that it just means living here in this practice monastery. There were many Krupa Ajahns here at that time, with Tanjau Kun Dhammachetty as the senior. Finally, they decided to translate kammatthana as the base upon which path and fruit arise. They translated it like that. Kammatthana is the foundation which enables path and fruit to arise. It's the foundation upon which virtue stands. It's the foundation upon which all goodness and all wholesome qualities arise. So we call it the base upon which path and fruit arise. We hope for the path and hope for the fruit. So what is this foundation? Just what is this foundation that we are to build? What kind of foundation will cause path and fruit to arise out of it? Focus all your energies on this question or this objective. Be completely intent on this point. Don't withdraw the mind from this point. If we withdraw the mind from the work which will develop us into noble ones, where we build up to path and fruit, then, just like that, we become one who is distracted and heedless. Distracted and heedless means we've allowed the mind and allowed the heart to drift from the work site where we build ourselves up into the state of noble ones. Only the kammatthana can prepare us to enter into the state of the noble ones. If we haven't yet gained realization into the kammatthana, then we are monks only in name, but the heart isn't in line with what we call ourselves, because we haven't yet seen into and clarified the kammatthana. This kammatthana is something most excellent. The acharyas of ancient times established that in the going forth and higher ordinations, the kammatthana must be spoken of every time, and the kammatthana must be taught to aspirants before they don the sacred triple robe set. This shows that the kammatthana is the very root of the monk's life and is our spiritual life. It's the root foundation of those who protect the sacred robe. So get interested. Implant yourself into this root foundation. In the center is the birthplace of path and fruit. In the center is the birthplace of the monk. Monk here means the mind, and refers to a mind and heart which has reached the highest. For the heart to reach the highest, it must have a breakthrough. For the heart to reach the highest, it must have a breakthrough in the kammatthana first. If there hasn't yet been this breakthrough in realizing the kammatthana, but instead one is still infatuated with the kammatthana objects, then how can the mind become a monk? Reach an understanding. We now have this opportunity to gather our energies and strive with all our mindfulness, strength, and skill. Don't drift into laziness, lassitude, or a cavalier attitude which causes us to fall off track and lose the way. We thus go away from the point where the nascent path, fruit, and the Dhamma might arise in the mind and heart. I'll leave it at that.
Annamayang namakataya sadhu karang dadamase.
Sadhu, 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 anumodami.
And I wanted to clarify one point in the beginning of the talk that a point I found very, very interesting was, like he said, we don't have to want relinquishment. We don't have to want dispassion. We don't have to desire to let go. But and that's kind of a obscure point, but the point that he points to after that is when you see the true nature of things, those qualities automatically arise from seeing truth. That's why I really, really appreciated that particular teaching. Any comments or questions?
Ajahn, do you recall a Thai phrase for ordaining the heart?
Yeah, that's, he says it in different ways at different times. In that particular talk, I think it might just be bụt pai nok,แต่ยังไม่ได้บวชภายใน, like you haven't ordained inside yet, or sometimes he says what ordains, and then he says jai ben sing ti bụt jeng lu yang, so like has it really ordained or not yet. But in that particular talk I can't remember the exact, because sometimes you have to like mix the sentences around into a different order to make it make sense in English.
One question for Luang Por. I'm still trying to figure out how to hold my kammatthana, which is I've been trying experimenting with Buddha. Still figuring out how to hold that on like a regular basis throughout the day. It's like I'm noticing when if I'm doing something that's not like repetitive, if I keep like Buddha going, then it's like I'm still faltering, I'm kind of clumsy, and so it seems like I need to like drop that so I can focus what I'm doing. But because if I focus too much on Buddha, then I'm not like aware. Mm-hmm. So is that kind of how it works? Because it seems like.
Well, yeah, because what you're trying to do is learn how to use a tool that helps support mindfulness and clear comprehension, so that if you're holding on to the tool and obscuring mindfulness and clear comprehension, then there's a problem there. It's like just learning how to gain skill in how to use the tools, and so so a lot of it is just through experiment, and that's exactly what practice is, in the sense of you're practicing and training in order to internalize the qualities that are going to support clear seeing and relinquishment. So that if we're desperately clinging to the kammatthana method, then it can get in the way of the result as well. So it's getting that balance and reflecting and saying, well, how can I support the purpose? And that's where, because sometimes you use the actual, say, like using Buddha or using say mindfulness and breathing. It's like being used judiciously, so that you can help to clarify the mind. And if you're desperately trying to pay attention to each in-breath and out-breath while you're using a chainsaw or something, and you cut your arm off or your leg off. You've got to come back to actual awareness. So it's like learning to understand that there's a difference between, let's say, the tool and the purpose of the tool, and so that using Buddha or whatever kammatthana, using it when the mind starts to when it's wandering, or when there's a tendency to drift off, and then having that anchor so that you can sustain awareness and sustain reflection, and then when the mind does begin to wander, then it's like you're lifting up you become familiar with the use of it. So then it pops up, so that you go, okay, I've got this anchor to help tether me to mindfulness and clear comprehension, investigation and understanding.
I had a question about formal practice as well, Luang Por, if I could. We've been touching on previous talks on that third phase of anapanasati, sabakaya, knowing the whole body, and how in the commentaries that's been interpreted a lot as, just knowing the body of the breath at the nose, but sort of some of the, other Ajahns, and Thanissaro and Tenporley in particular, speaking about becoming familiar with the whole subtle body, and moving with the breath energy. And for me, that's been far, far more effective in recent years, is using a bit of qigong and stuff to sort of get the energy into the body and re-inhabit it, and then sort of move around, and how there's a lot of pleasure available and a lot of piti there. So I've been doing that in meditation, and circulating through different points in the body that are especially kind of have a lot of piti with them. And in the beginning it seems to be lower down, and then later on it refines and sort of moves up. But and it's been very pleasant and gone a good way, I think. But I sort of can't. There's no, as of yet, I haven't found the place where it really settles. it seems like it's really fun to kind of move around, and then it begins to sort of settle near the nose. And I find that if I just let it do that, it can get quite tight unless I use a kammatthana, a subha kammatthana in tandem, like bones, just repeating it seems to keep it from getting too tight. And the other option is to actually consciously try to keep the awareness pretty wide, involving my abdomen as well as my nose. So anyways, I know that's a bit convoluted, but I'm just curious if you have any suggestions about, like, it seems like the vichara element of moving around the body, at least it seems to be good, but I don't know about the ekagatta point of actually, coming to one.
Well, the thing is you also have to reinvestigate how you're assuming, say, what even ekagatta is, because that so often we take it as a one-pointed, and so that there's one-pointed and how do you say, fixed focus on one particular object, and is that what it actually means? I have a doubt. And whereas I think Ajahn Jeff does a good job of using the translation of unification, and also that assumption that somehow the mind, and I think it's quite well, maybe not even a universal, maybe not just a Western, but even a universal, that any kind of movement of mind is a defilement, and so that but the sense of how Ajahn Chah defining that unification in the sense of that there is. You have a sphere of attention that you are comfortable with, and that helps bring about a sense of ease and clarity, and then that allows the mind to settle within that sphere. So and it doesn't mean that you're not allowing anything to move. He gives the image of putting the wicker or the bamboo kind of basket over the chicken, and the chicken's still able to move around, but it's not wandering off, and so it's unified within that sphere. In the same way that you have a kammatthana that you are, or an object that you are at ease with, and the mind takes its sphere of interest within that. So then it can still move around within that. And then as one becomes more content and clear and not scattered with it, it'll settle again. So it's like without trying to make it too tight, but learning how to be attentive and comfortable within that.
So is that when the chicken would enter jhana smoothly? Because I'm definitely in that phase of the chicken's sort of running around and he's having a good time and he's definitely slowing down. But I don't know if there's a point where you just knock the chicken out and
Well, that's the thing is, as soon as you try to do that, then you squeeze the chicken to death, and that's not jhana.
Does he just pass out on his own? Do you just keep him running until
No, I mean the chicken tires out on its own. I mean it becomes comfortable within its sphere, and that's the thing is that we're trying to squeeze it into the conformity of one's idea of what you think a concentrated mind is, and it's never going to be comfortable.
I really, thank you, Luang Por. I really found that I keep getting these instructions to just lock it in here, and I try it and it always feels heavy-handed, and but then there's that intuitive sense of like letting things move a bit, and it seems to lead onward every time, but I've just never been sure if I have to just at some point cut it,
Well, I mean, the thing is again, it comes to a place of what you're doing. It's like that sense of it comes back to renunciation, as opposed to and renunciation is, you can't force renunciation, but it's with clear seeing that then why am I holding on to that? I don't need to hold on to this. So then you release or relinquish and renounce that kind of, say, attachment to trying to make the mind conform to an idea that you have, or trying to gain pleasure or gratification from something that is ultimately dissatisfying. And so, in the same way, you can't force your mind to say relinquish attachment to something or other. But it's with that clear. It's that path factors that allow the mind to become more and more clear and say, oh, this is stupid, and the mind releases around it, and then it's willing to settle.
Could I just add one thought that you were mentioning, Ajahn, just use of the word unification.
Yeah.
And there was something quite a while ago that I read of his that actually made a lot of sense to me as well, because he said that he kind of redefined the word ekagatta, as the commentaries refer in the first jhana, to more of singleness of purpose. Singleness of purpose rather than like the object itself.
Right.
And then in the second jhana where they say ekagatta is the unification. And so he made a distinction between that, and kind of thought that expressed it well.
It seems also in a number of different places in practice with these kind of sequences, looking ahead can also be helpful. And the next step, the stilling of formations, like you talk about how you're like in this area and that area, and you're conceiving a certain thing, a space, a part of the body. And those kind of conceivings of a certain object, like a leg or in here or whatever, become obstacles in and of themselves. And when one starts to just unify on the feelings and dissolve them, then expansion to full awareness becomes more readily possible. Also movement. You can enslave yourself in movement, and I find that it's quite useful to look to a unique form of movement, just the expansion and contraction. It's not normally one that seems apparent to us, and I often have to re-remind myself that's a very effective, practical way of looking at movement as expansion and contraction of the body.
That's quite
And then especially when you go to that, say, like expansion and contraction, like just that, because the Buddha speaks of that as just the expansion and contraction of the breath coming in and going out, but then you have expansion and contraction of universes, so that it applies to everything, and it's just the actual object is irrelevant, and it's just the sense of form or it just is. One doesn't have to conceive of anything. It's just being present.
Before I have a question.
Yeah.
Regarding the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and it's all things we've just been talking about, but I was wondering kind of like how to understand, I guess I'm trying to understand it theoretically, at least at one point, because I'm a little confused, but like, how would you say with the 4 different body, feelings, mind, and dhammas, the relationship between those different spheres? Is it some sort of progressive? Are they all together? Are they because they're separated when they're described.
The relationship, there's a common element, is that that's all not self. And that is that's your, how to say, your common theme that you want to be plugging into, because that's where you're going. Again, it comes back to what is it that is the catalyst for relinquishment and release. It's that theme of whether it's body, feeling, mind objects. This is not me. This is not mine. This is not myself.
But before the point where we can see that or whatever, just as far as practical steps or whatever, there's all different steps in the suttas and as far as that goes.
Well, I mean, it's not a linear process. I think a lot of it is which aspect is what speaks to you, or what gives you some kind of feeling of confidence or clarity in how to approach a practice and sustain interest. So so if you take it as a linear thing, then you'll keep. Then there's, on a certain level, there's no end to it. But then it's like, you've got to, what the Buddha is giving us is multiple approaches and multiple pathways to be able to help train our minds and realize an underlying truth to all of it.
And one last one is, what's a good way to understand the kind of mind and dhammas, the kind of mindfulness of mind, mindfulness of dhammas, and the relationship and how those function?
Well, mindfulness of mind is around the actual content of the mind. It's like in the actual satipatthana. Then you've got, knowing the mind of greed as the mind of greed, knowing the mind without greed as the mind without greed, with hatred, with delusion, knowing a concentrated mind, unconcentrated mind. So you're speaking about content, and then when you're looking at mind objects, then it's more like the way or the patterns of mind in terms of the what we tend to define our mind and our experience by 5 khandhas, 6 sense spheres, in a neutral sense, but then in a more positive sense, where do we direct our attention to? 7 factors are like 4 noble truths. I mean, 4 noble truths is your baseline, and I think it's in. I'm not sure where. Maybe it's in Analios, but there's other scholars. You've got other iterations of these 4 foundations of mindfulness, and it's those kind of breaking down categories are, lesser or more extensive in these different iterations of suttas or recensions. But 4 noble truths is always, it's your kind of baseline. Yeah.
So on this topic, maybe I'll share what I've been experimenting with, and you can comment on it if you like. I've spent a lot of time with the 16 steps of Anapanasati, and of course that 3rd step that Tanya Sabo mentioned is something that I really focus on. And I've been experimenting with moving linearly through the 16 steps, but almost like having like a primary and a secondary, so that my primary is calming the body. That's my task at hand. But in order to do that, I want to, start like by breathe. Obviously I'm starting with in and out breath and so forth, and then paying attention to the whole body. And then, but also, so with this task of calming my kaya sankhara, then I pay attention to the feelings that I'm having, and then I'm paying attention to my mental states, and then basically, for me, the fourth step boils down to relinquishment. So, and then I kind of, and even if I'm even moving like from like pay attention to the body, calming the body, and then moving on to if and when I get pleasurable feeling, I'm still sort of like moving through all the 16 steps with that one step being my focus, and sort of practicing all those 16 various steps in service of either calming the body or experiencing PT and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a, I think it's just helpful to have structure, to give the mind something clear to sustain it, because usually what happens is, it's just be mindful, or just, we go off into, mind gets really woolly, and it's, it's all about Dhamma. It's really helpful to have that clarity of having different steps and different structures to give some focus to the mind. But then that's again where you're, what's it in service of? And then refining that, and of course, that's having and I think particularly for us as Westerners, we having that, really being able to calm the body in terms of, because it's like a tangible readout on what our experience is, and it helps us to sidestep that tendency to conceptualize and getting caught in ideas and ideals, and so then it gives a good experiential foundation for that development of clarity and relinquishment. So it's not when I say it's not a linear thing, it doesn't mean that we can't use linear processes, but it's a sense where it's tied together, and you understanding what that you're serving a purpose of clarity and relinquishment.
If I may share some of my experience in that, with the body, and calming it with the breath and energies and stuff. Since I've been doing Qigong lately, I've been taught like the focus on posture kind of allows the body and the breath to settle down in a natural kind of place. If your posture is out of alignment, then your breath or your chi kind of goes in different places. So knowing good posture principles kind of allows it all to settle down to one area, and then it's like your body is just being supported naturally by structure. And it's almost like you're gradually renouncing those places of tension, those habits that make the breath rise up or just collapse or something like that. And to me, that's been very helpful. Settling.
Of says is like the most important thing is just simply like results. Results, what happens when you do something? What's the result? Why are you doing it?
Pardon?
Is that the most important thing of like any kind of thing that somebody does? Like what's the results?
I mean, it's yes. I mean, in the sense of you have to understand that there are results, and you have to pay attention to because I mean the result is conditioned by the methods that one uses. So that's not separate in the sense. So I just want the peace and wisdom and happiness. But you have to, how you do it conditions that. But then we can get caught up in trying to refine the technique so much that we forget that why we're doing it. So it's getting that balance.
And so is it good to ask, like, is this working or not? Kind of.
That's why you pay attention to the results and sort of seeing, is this actually working? And that's why I say, like, the Buddha keeps pounding away in that what I teach is suffering and cessation of suffering. So that's your in terms of what are we looking at in terms of goal or result, and is what I'm doing leading me there, or is it going to lead me there?
So it's why, and then kind of why is it working, and then the result kind of thing?